Latest U.S. export crackdown. Flight training for Chinese military pilots targeted. Dutch government to screen Chinese tech students over security concerns. Cannot afford to be absent any longer. China concerns prompt U.S. move to rejoin UNESCO. Chinese provinces increase penalty implementation amid revenue crisis. The Biden administration added 43 companies to an export control list on June 12th, including Frontier Services Group Ltd., a security and aviation company for training Chinese military pilots, and other actions that threaten American national security. The Test Flying Academy of South Africa, or TFASA, a flying school under scrutiny by British authorities for hiring British ex-military pilots to instruct Chinese military pilots, was also included on the entity list maintained by the U.S. Commerce Department. Companies on the list are prohibited from obtaining American exports if their operations are regarded to be against American interests. As reported by Reuters, the new listings include Frontier Services Group facilities in China, Kenya, Laos, and the United Arab Emirates, TFASA facilities in South Africa, China, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom, Aviation Industry Corporation of China, or AVIC, facilities in China and South Africa. Besides, the Commerce Department stated in a release that companies had been added to the list for purchasing U.S. origin items supporting China's military modernization, including hypersonic weapons development and hypersonic flight modeling. Matthew Axelrod, a commerce official, said in a statement, "It is imperative that we prevent China from acquiring U.S. technologies and know-how to enable their military modernization programs." In total, 31 Chinese organizations were added to the list. Shanghai Supercomputing Technology Co., Ltd. was also included for providing cloud-based supercomputing capabilities to support hypersonics research. 9 Chinese and Pakistani companies were added for contributing to Pakistan's ballistic missile program and other weapons contributions. 2 other corporations were added for aiding China's violation of human rights, notably its persecution of Uyghur Muslims and members of other minority groups in western China's Xinjiang region. The Dutch government is reviewing its approach to admitting international students following concerns over national security risks, particularly concerning Chinese postgraduates. According to the Financial Times, in response to universities' decision to limit admissions of Chinese students due to their ties to the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP regime, Dutch Education Minister Robert Dijkgraaf is exploring the possibility of reducing international participation in certain programs. This move reflects a growing trend among European Union countries to adopt a stricter stance on perceived security threats emanating from Beijing, departing from the previous decades of openness. The primary concerns revolve around students funded by the China Scholarship Council, or CSC. These students must pledge allegiance to the CCP, return to China within 2 years of completing their studies, and report to the Chinese embassy in their host country. Minister Dijkgraaf shares the university's concerns and has initiated a study to determine the number of CSC researchers and what areas these researchers are active in the Netherlands. The Dutch minister refuted claims of a deliberate policy to exclude Chinese students or discourage cooperation with Chinese institutes and researchers in sensitive fields. However, pressure from the U.S. has led the Dutch government to restrict the transfer of advanced technology to China. Recently, the Dutch government announced that export licenses would be required for the most advanced silicon chip-making machines manufactured by ASML. Several Dutch universities, including Delft University of Technology, Maastricht University, and Eindhoven University of Technology, or TUE, have already started reducing the number of CSC students they accept. Robert Jan Smits, president of TUE, stated that the Dutch government is asking universities to adopt a more cautious approach and safeguard their valuable assets. The UN's Cultural and Scientific Agency, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, has announced that the U.S. plans to rejoin and pay more than $600 million in back dues. According to US officials, the decision to return was driven by concerns that China is stepping in to fill the policymaking void left by Washington in the UNESCO, particularly in setting standards for artificial intelligence and technology education globally. As reported by The Guardian, Richard Verma, the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State for Administration and Resources, formally announced the decision to rejoin last week in a letter to Audrey Azoulay, the Director General of UNESCO. The U.S. was once the agency's biggest funder. Many delegates applauded its return, along with a new influx of money. The US and Israel stopped funding UNESCO after it voted to include Palestine as a member state in 2011, and both nations lost their voting rights in 2013. In 2017, the Trump administration completely withdrew from the agency, citing anti-Israel bias and management problems. Azoulay told the Associated Press news agency that the US decision to return is the result of 5 years of work, during which we calmed tensions, notably on the Middle East, improved our response to contemporary challenges, resumed major initiatives on the ground, and modernized the functioning of the organization. Under the plan, in addition to its 2023 dues, the US government would pay $10 million in bonus contributions this year to support Holocaust education, preserve cultural heritage in Ukraine, journalist safety, and science and technology education in Africa. The Biden administration has requested $150 million for the 2024 budget to go toward UNESCO dues and arrears. Similar requests will be made for the ensuing years until the debt of $619 million is fully paid. Before leaving, the U.S. contributed 22% of the agency's overall funding. Paying its arrears helps UNESCO's $534 million annual operating budget. The absence of the U.S. from UNESCO had strengthened China. It plunged the agency into financial uncertainty, undercutting its ability to be as effective in promoting the vision of a free world. John Bass, the Undersecretary of State for Management, claimed in March that UNESCO was critical to setting and shaping standards for technology and science teaching worldwide. So if we're really serious about the digital age competition with China, we can't afford to be absent any longer. Several cash-strapped provinces in China have recently switched to a new means of filling their coffers: fines. According to Bloomberg, the cases are increasing, and some have become controversial. In Shanghai, a restaurant owner had to pay 5,000 yuan, over $700, for offering sliced cucumber without a permit. Reacting to the incident, an online user said, "If they want to fine you, even adding vinegar could be wrong." In Hunan province, truckers complained about the increased penalties for surpassing the limits of vehicle weight, prompting questions about the accuracy of the government's measuring instrument. Local media said one driver had racked up tickets amounting to $38,000 in the last 2 years. Then, in Guangxi province, commuters in Nanning City in May suddenly faced parking fees that amounted to thousands of yuan. The city mayor later had to bow and apologize after the practice began to attract fierce backlash. Arbitrary levies from local governments have already attracted tension since 2022. A grocer in Shanxi province received a 66,000 yuan fine for 2.5 kilograms, or 5.5 pounds, of celery that officials said did not meet standards. In Guangdong province, it was discovered that the authorities fabricated evidence to fine trucks for alleged illegal dumping in August. Top leadership in China has spoken about ending the arbitrary fees in February this year. Yet, this month, the central government also ordered provinces to address their hidden debt issues independently and improvise new ways to finance themselves. As Bloomberg reported from Goldman Sachs, Chinese government debt, including from sources not on the balance sheet, reached 156 trillion yuan, or $22 trillion, 126% of gross domestic product last year.